Hello, everybody. Good day. Welcome to the Toon podcast. We are here to review the Ipswich victory, which was quite a routine win in the end. We're going to look ahead to the Brighton game as we really get towards the business end of the season now. I'm Jack in Brisbane, fresh from a nice week off work, first day back today. And I've got Mark, who has also had a few days away. How are you doing, Mark?
Yeah, it's good. Public holidays coming thick and fast in Brisbane at the moment, which is always nice, especially when work's so busy. But yeah, just kind of doing parties and then coming back in and staying up to watch the match. I'm a little bit sleep deprived, so yeah, catching up on sleep at the moment.
Unlike Victoria, Queensland doesn't have public holidays every week. But yes, at the moment, there's a lot of public holidays in a short space of time. And then we've got another one next week. And then there's a few show days and things going on. And after that, there's nothing until October. So they're all crammed into a short space of time. So you feel a bit disorientated for a little while, and then you get back to normal life after that. And Easter was late as well this year. So yeah, but it's meant that there's been plenty of football to watch. Newcastle had a really, what in the end was quite a routine 3-0 victory over Ipswich. It was a bit of a awkward kind of game, which we'll touch on at points. And then we're going to focus on the upcoming Brighton game, which is a massive game in the context of the season. Every game's important now, but especially a game like that at a ground where, let's be fair, we just don't win. We never have, apart from the championship that time when Mo Diame scored that screaming bicycle heel, where it bounced off his heel and went into the top corner. But anyway, first things first, it was good to see Eddie Howe back on the touchline for this one, even though he wasn't really on the touchline. But it's been really concerning what's happened with him. He was hospitalized with pneumonia, which is pretty serious. You know, you don't normally have to go to hospital when you're unwell. So he did his press conference on Friday, and he explained that even at the Leicester game, he was really not well at all. He was sick then. And then he's missed 2 games, which is really not like him at all. He even said on Friday that he couldn't really concentrate on the 2 games he missed, which if there's any indication that he's not well, it's that, because everybody knows what a obsessive he is about his job and about his football. So good to see him back, Mark, but still maybe a few concerns that he's not himself, I think, based on his presentation, how he was at the weekend.
Yeah, I think everyone was wishing him the best. I don't think someone like Eddie Howe, who is as fit as he is, and it's not like it's not some older manager, he's out of shape or anything like that. He's fairly fairly in shape. He's young enough. So for him to have gone to hospital for that, you know, it's definitely going to have been serious. And yeah, if he's not able to focus on football at all, he must have definitely needed the rest and just switch off from everything. But look, I think he had all of the best wishes of all the fans, all the players. The players did him proud. Other than that Villa game, I think that was just a step too far for them at the time. And it was good to see him back. I think he intimated in his post-match interview that he wasn't 100% still. He was still kind of like struggling, and concentration levels were still not there. So, you know, he's still relying very heavily on Jason Tindall. He may have to fix that since he's banned for the next game now, isn't he? So we'll just ignore the crazy yellow card that Jason Tindall got. But yeah, no, it's good to see Eddie back, and you know, hopefully he's put that behind him, and it's just sort of building his strength back up now. It's not something you want to see for anybody, and I think it's been a pretty hectic year. So maybe things are just sort of starting to take their toll on him.
You could see the camera was looking for him when the teams were coming out, and then but next time it went back, he was sat on the bench. So like it obviously just sneaked out. And he did say in his press conference before the game that he was 100% in his mind, but not in his body.
Yeah.
And for someone, like you said, who's that healthy to have been knocked about like that and have, you know, as long in hospital as he did, I think if he was in any other job and if it was any other person, he wouldn't be back. But he doesn't want to miss anything. We'll see what happens at Brighton. Hopefully, Graham Jones can take on a bit of the ranting and raving on the touchline, because Eddie certainly didn't seem like he was up to it on the weekend. Not that it mattered much. But yeah, hopefully he can have himself a rest at the end of the season as well. We've got a chief executive who's got a life-threatening illness, who's still at work, and we've got a manager who won't stay away. And I'm sure it's Eddie's decision, what he wants to do. And he's an adult; he can make his own decisions. But let's hope he's okay and that he can get a bit of a rest at the end of the season. And maybe, like you said, maybe it is everything coming on top of him and his obsessiveness about his job, and maybe it's the world just telling him to have a little bit of a step back. It's not good timing with the games coming up, but yeah, at the end of the season, you can have a bit of a well-earned rest, I think, and maybe reflect a little bit on what he's achieved this season, which is already amazing and could get even better. This game was, in the end, it was a pretty routine. It was complete domination. I've never seen us have that much of the ball, and we definitely deserved the win. But it was a bit awkward at the beginning to start with, wasn't it? We seemed to be trying to force it a little bit. Was there any part of you in this game that thought this might not actually be as comfortable as we think it might be?
I think with the way Leicester set up, they clearly had no interest in actually playing football. They were physical without necessarily going completely overboard. I think there was some marginal calls at some point where they kind of flirted with that line of crossing. But look, they clearly set up shop. They wanted to defend. They wanted to make things difficult for us as much as they can. And like a team in their position, I don't blame them at all for doing that. It's up to us to. We've said this before in previous seasons. If teams want to sit back and they want to just defend and park the bus, so to speak, it's not on them to change the way they're playing. It's on us to be able to break them down and find a way through. The longer the first half went on, the more it starts creeping in, going, this is going to be one of those games, isn't it, where we definitely should be winning. We definitely need to win, and something's just not going to go for us today. And the keeper's probably going to pull off 20 world-class saves and keep a clean sheet, and we'll end up getting a 0-0 draw or something. Luckily, as you said, we did come back into the game. So it's nice to see that we had that resilience. It's nice to see that we had some creativity from a couple of key players when we had so much possession. Normally, we seem to struggle for ideas when we're that dominant in possession, and as you said, it doesn't happen very often. It's nice to see us have those little moments where things were clicking, and we'll probably talk about the goals, but the Harvey Barnes miss where he was sort of like threw pretty much clean shot on goal and skied it over the top of the bar. But the build-up play for that was just absolutely sublime, where it was just like one-touch passing throughout the midfield, sets up a brilliant chance. And we had moments of that throughout the first half without necessarily really creating too many clear-cut chances. But then when the ref's going to rule out perfectly good goals because of the keepers being overly protected, it's not making it easy either.
I don't think the ref did himself any favors. I don't like talking about refs, and it doesn't matter because we won, but he just completely lost it for both teams, and both teams have got reasons to be unhappy with his performance. But I think what it did do, it got the crowd into the game, and everybody was starting to get fired up about it. And what was otherwise could have been one of those quiet kind of games that sort of meanders, and everyone starts getting a bit agitated. That happens when goalkeepers go down. But if you actually look at it, Bruno's just been sort of nudged into the goalkeeper by one of their defenders. But that's just always going to be given. Goalkeepers are a protected species, I think. The red card probably changed the game as well. The dive, I don't know, that was a bit debatable. You couldn't really see a clear view of that. But it looked like he was looking for it, but you couldn't actually see if there was any contact or not. But on another day, that could have gone a different way. And then he's just been a bit silly, and he's pulled Isak back for an obvious yellow card after that. But I think,
it's one of those things, though. It's like if it doesn't matter what the first yellow card was for or how harsh that was. If you're on a yellow card, you don't do that. It's as simple as you don't actively pull a player back and then act surprised when you get a second yellow.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then it was only 7 minutes after that we did score. And again, it was a VAR intervention. I don't think Enciso can have many complaints. Really pulled his arm, and he did pull him back. So the referee didn't give it. His view was a bit obstructed. But I think just what we're trying to say here is the referee was not good in this game, was he? For both teams?
Not at all. The penalty decision was a bit strange. I saw a Leicester fan on social media posting a video, posting a still shot or a video of it close up and saying, "Oh, this is now what we're calling a penalty." And even Aston Villa fans are chirping up, going, "Well, it's a foul in the box. It's usually how it goes." Yeah, it's like those are the rules. So it was one of those weird situations where Murphy definitely made the most of it, but there was clear contact. He was clearly pulled back, and if he's gone down because of that, then I'm not sure the Leicester players can really complain all that much.
Ipswich it was, not Leicester.
Ipswich, sorry.
Although it was very similar to the game against Leicester.
Yes.
But Isak took the penalty. He's not off form, Isak, and he's still scored 4 goals in his last 7 games. So you'll take that if you're a player who's not at top form. But he's definitely not the player he was of even 6 weeks ago. I would say probably before the cup final. He's, like I said, he's still been scoring goals, but he's been missing chances that usually he would take. I know there was a concern that he might have had an injury before.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's still going on or if there's something. He looks frustrated, though, when he's playing. He's not getting the space. And maybe it's because of the opposition we've been playing against. But it doesn't quite seem 100% right, does he?
So one of the things that we were told by all of the Spanish fans when he joined was he blows hot and cold. He will have moments of brilliance and he'll go on massive scoring runs, and then he'll hit a shaky spell where he just really struggles to score the easy goals. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. I think he's potentially improved since those days because, as you said, it's like he's playing in a debatably, I know this is probably going to be controversial for all of the La Liga fans out there, but a much better league in terms of total strength in terms of the whole league. So it's good that he's still scoring those goals, but he is missing chances that at other points this season he's been burying. I mean, he's scored. The game the other day, it's like he had probably a hat trick of chances that he missed and then scores the hardest one of the lot. So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating for him. I don't think he's getting the overall space that he has, and maybe teams are just this is the guy that we have to stop, and by doing that, it's freeing up space for the likes of Barnes, for Murphy, for other players to start getting those gaps and start scoring the goals themselves. So we're not shy of goals at the moment. We're still scoring plenty of goals, which is reassuring that even though he's struggling, we're still scoring goals from elsewhere. And I think that's what the summer we all hope is about, building up a little bit more strength and depth of those attacking pieces, so it takes some of that pressure off him. And so then teams have to go, well, we can't double up on Isak because that there are other threats that we have to cover. He does look like he's a little bit jaded at the moment with those chances, and maybe he's frustrated at himself. He's certainly getting the chances. He's certainly getting chances created for him. So I'm not sure he can't really point the finger at his teammates or the way we're playing because he is getting opportunities. It's just obviously going to be frustrating for him because he's like, well, I've been scoring these. Why are they not going in now? But I'm sure it's like as you said, most times most strikers will go through a patch where they're not scoring goals as readily as they otherwise would, and then they'll find form again and carry on. So I've got no problems with it. If you have a look at the goal scoring table without penalties, he's actually joint first with Haaland. So if you take all of Salah's penalties away, then he's actually scored less goals in open play than Alexander Isak. So yeah, look, I don't think there's too much to worry about. I think we have a good striker. He will find form again at some point. Just got to keep on trying.
He's probably played more football as well for this season than he has previously because he's had to, because Wilson's not been there and Asula's not been deemed to be ready. So he's actually played, and Gordon stood in for him a little bit earlier in the season, but he's probably played a lot more minutes this season, and he's maybe just getting tired as well. And I don't know if he did have that knock around. He missed the Liverpool away game and whether that was tactical or to try and keep the powder dry for the cup final, who knows? But But he's still scoring goals, though. He's still got a better than 1-2 record over the last 7 games, despite the fact he's not been playing well. And he could have had hat-tricks against Palace and against Ipswich as well. So, it's not too big a concern. There's only 4 games left as well. So if he is tired, they'll just flog him, I think, until the end of the season. And then he's going to get a decent break. But it's actually 2 years to the day since he got that assist, against Everton, where he was showcasing absolutely everything he could do in that game. And that was a time of the season when him and Wilson were actually rotating who was starting a lot. They were both on the pitch on that occasion, but him and Wilson were sharing the duties. So he was starting some games and coming off the bench in others. So maybe that just kept him a bit fresher than what he is at the moment.
And the thing is, as well, he doesn't shy away from the work either. He does a lot of running off the ball. It's not like he's just that fox in the box striker who's waiting for an opportunity to be laid at his feet. He does the hard graft off the ball as well. So that's something that, we definitely need that extra piece to be able to rotate so that he is fresher for more of the season and can keep that intensity level up for longer.
Yeah, definitely. But having a striker who is so good, who even at 50%, he's the best striker at the club. So, and he's going to keep playing, and quite rightly too. And hopefully you can see it through to the end of the season. There were a couple of other standout performances. Kieran Trippier was absolutely phenomenal in this game, and he has been since the Arsenal semi-final, I would say, in the cup, where he was imperious in that game, in the home game especially. But he is back to his best form of 18 months ago, before he hit that drop-off last season. He lost his place in the team for pretty much 12 months between Christmas, January time when Tino came in, and then Hall got into the team as well. But he's just been so good, hasn't he? This was vintage Trippier. 2 assists, 2 crosses. He touched the ball 156 times it was, which is absolutely ridiculous for a right back. And like I've said so many times, he controls the game in a way that I've never ever seen another right back do. He's got a role, hasn't he, next season if he wants? I think he's still got a year left on his contract.
For sure. I think he's already been interviewed saying, look, hopefully we get Champions League and we can all have another tilt. And I think he wants that opportunity. It's amazing that people were writing him off. And look, it's one of those things where I think we knew we missed out selling Wilson and Miggy when they were on form, and we had maybe some offers come in for the summer and we didn't take them. And we were up against it with PSR. That was the big talking point. Oh, well, Kieran Trippier's old. We've got Tino. Let's sell him on. But and he was, to be fair, he was out of sorts for a while back then and as well. And we know that there was potentially some off the field shenanigans going on, and whatever's happened, he's obviously kind of put his head in the right space now, and he's come back in the team, and he has absolutely been amazing for us since he's come back in against, as I said, from the Arsenal semi-finals. He's not only dominating games, but his on the pitch leadership is just insanely good, and I think that's probably, as good as Bruno is as captain and the passion and he's wanting to drive the club forward, Trippier's just that calming influence at the back there, and he reads the game. He knows what needs to happen. He can sense when things are sort of slipping, and he puts things back into place. Yeah, for me, even if like Hall comes back in and Tino gets the right back spot, we're going to have more games next season. Trippier's still got a hell of a role to play next season, and certainly just having him around the dressing room for that leadership role. As we keep saying, the leadership in that team at the moment is a huge factor for our success. So long may it continue.
I think it was more earlier in the season about whether he wanted to leave. And I think he might have had opportunities to leave. And then I don't think if a decent offer would have come in, Eddie obviously wants to keep him because he wants to keep all of his big leaders and his good players, because that's just what he's like. He values what they bring off the pitch as well. But when you've got a 34, 35-year-old who can still play that well in important games, and get, he's won the trophy with us now as well. His legacy is 100% assured, and when he does leave, he's going to go down as easily the best fullback we've had in my lifetime anyway. And like that leadership on the pitch, even when he's on the bench, he's doing it. He's talking to the players. He doesn't sulk about it, he just gets on with it. And it's a great position to be in, to have characters like that. And he was absolutely outstanding in this game. The second goal was the assist for Dan Burn, which was a nice header for him. Not quite as spectacular as his last one, but an important goal all the same. And then William Asula, who might be a player who gives Isak a bit of a breather in the future years. He got his first Premier League goal, and what was pretty much a carbon copy of the header that Fabian Schär scored against Spurs in the 4-0 last season. But he did well, look, didn't he? Asula was good when he came on. He was lively. He runs about like a little puppy dog, and he got his reward.
Yeah, it's one thing that I've always said is he looks like a Great Dane puppy who hasn't quite figured out how his legs work yet. He certainly seems to be finding them a little bit, but yeah, he's got bags of energy. He's a bit mental. He's kind of got almost that sort of Ketsbayer nut job about him at times. And you love to see the characters in the game. Sometimes it does get a little bit stagnant where everyone's got to be carbon copy robots of each other. He's just loving life at the moment, just playing football and celebrating trophy wins. And yeah, I think he's obviously bought in to the fact that this season was going to be a developmental season for him, because he's never really looked to sulk. I mean, a lot of strikers, a lot of people probably would have been complaining that they weren't getting games and why aren't I getting on the pitch, and Wilson's starting ahead of me, why is that happening, all that sort of stuff. He's never once made his mouth go about anything negative. He's just got on with his job, and it seems to be paying dividends. And this could be a couple of months into next season, we start looking back on it and going, right, you remember all of those times where everyone kept wanting him to play, and why isn't Eddie playing him? The same that happened with Lewis Hall. Sometimes you just need to kind of trust the process, and he's finding his feet, and I'm really pleased for him. He was over the moon to score that goal. He's been on Instagram sending messages to everyone. He's definitely enjoying himself at the club, so it's nice to see him get a little bit of reward for that.
You look at him on the pitch, and he looks like he's quick, he's strong, he's big, he's powerful. He looks like he's got everything that he needs in a forward, and he's mainly been playing off the right-hand side because Murphy's the only player we've got out there. And he hasn't really been trusted to step up front. I think he's only played something like 80 minutes in Premier League appearances before this, and it's all been a bit here and there and a bit scrappy for him. But yeah, it's an important developmental season for him. Maybe next season he might go out on loan if he's still not deemed quite ready. But the club will have to select his loan club very carefully. Yeah. But if his raw attributes, his physical attributes, and his obvious skill, he loves a step over. If that can be harnessed into being a bit more disciplined without taking away what makes him so special, he could be a real fun player and a fun squad player to have, and a good backup. But definitely, if we bring in another striker, if Wilson leaves, then maybe that'll be the time for him to go out and try and get some experience. But it's been entertaining watching him, especially in the cup as well. The cup appearances, he scored that really good goal against Bromley, wasn't it? And then the first Premier League goal, he was absolutely over the moon. And then Bruno tried to do his little dance with him, so that was a nice moment as well.
he's definitely got something about him, and there is a player there. You can see, as you said, he's got the physical attributes. It's just how to harness them properly, how to get more controlled with those attributes, so that he's doing things that he means, as opposed to just, well, something's going to happen and I don't know what yet. Very, very much kind of like essence of Lua, where nobody ever really knew what he was going to do, and I'm not sure he did either. But yeah, hopefully he can kind of like harness that raw skill that he's got, because there's definitely a player under there somewhere.
He was so much fun, Lua. I used to have his name on my shirt back in 2001 because he was so fun to watch, and I was a little 15-year-old kid then. So that's the kind of players. But that's it, like he's the kind of player that the kids love. He's a bit like St. Maximan. Everyone, the kids especially, loved him because he looks silky and skillful, even if his end product wasn't always there. But I think there's definitely a role for players like that, and he's at the right club. He's got the right manager to help him develop, and I'm sure that's what he's been told this season. Just do what we're telling you to do. Just watch, learn off the players around you, and go from there. So really nice to see him get that first goal, and it was good to just finally put that game to bed as well, because they weren't going to come back into it. But 3-0 was a bit more of a reflection of what the game was, I think. We've beaten all of the promoted and now relegated teams this season, 6 out of 6 wins, by an aggregate score of 18-1. So against Leicester, Southampton, and Ipswich, and only really Southampton in the first game is the only one that gave us any kind of difficulty, really. But last season we dropped 5 points against relegated teams because we didn't beat Luton, who were almost about to get relegated again from the Championship this season, although they had a good win the other day. But yeah, we've been a bit more ruthless, haven't we? Those 5 points that we dropped this season, that could and probably will be the difference between qualifying for the Champions League and not qualifying for the Champions League. So we've been a bit more ruthless, haven't we? We've taken teams like this and we've just put them to bed in the way that we should have done. And I know there haven't been good teams, and we've had quite a strong season. And well, we've had a very strong season as it stands now. But yeah, there's been something that's been a little bit more clinical, hasn't it? I think probably this season against these weaker teams.
Yeah, we've managed to find that key to unlock the defenses when they're sitting deep. We've played well against the top sides. We've struggled against the mid-table sides, but you need to be able to win against the relegation scrap teams. You need to be able to just not necessarily overpower them, but just use the fact that you're clearly a better, more skillful team. And that's nothing against the promoted relegated sides. It's literally just the facts of the matter that they've not got the money, they've not spent the money, they've not built the squads up with the level of players that they needed. That's why they've gotten relegated. So it's one of those things where, yeah, historically we've probably struggled to, with those sorts of games, we don't really dominate them like we should, and we don't really take advantage of that of the domination when we have had it, and we struggle for ideas. If they can kind of typically if the teams hold us off for 60 minutes, we get frustrated, we run out of ideas, and then it just like peters out to a nothing game, and then they can always spring a counter attack and snatch that goal. It's or we've just really struggled to kind of like dominate those games as we should. So it's nice to see us finally getting those points on the board. And as you said, like in a season that's so tight, having those locked in points is something that you desperately need as a football club.
Even 2 seasons ago against Leeds, when we came fourth, we drew with them twice as well. So we were still dropping points then as well. But one really pleasing aspect of this was to underline the Aston Villa result, just like we did 2 seasons ago as well. But we put it right straight away, and I think that's why there wasn't quite as much despondency and meltdowns going on as usually happens when we lose a game. After the Villa game, I think there was an understanding that they still had Man City to come, and then we had this game, and then we could be 5 points ahead of them, which is exactly what happened. And we're sitting in third again now. Forest have got their game in hand against Brentford coming up on Thursday night this week. They just got knocked out of the FA Cup as well by Man City. So the thing is, you get the points on the board, and then the other teams have to chase. And unfortunately, Chelsea have picked up a bit of form, but you'd take this position, wouldn't you? Not just from where we were earlier in the season, but this is a really strong position to be in. Third in the table, 5 points clear of Villa, 2 points clear of Chelsea and Forest at this stage. We're in a very good position, even though we've got a couple of tricky fixtures coming up.
We've got some
say that we're favourites for the top 5. Yeah,
you have to say that we are, because it's in our hands. If we win our games, then nobody can catch us. The other teams have now got to the point where they're waiting for us to drop points so that they can get back in with a chance of finishing in the top 5. It's weird. Like football, I said on the group chat the other day, football's weird because we hammer Palace hammer Villa, and it's like, well, hang on, why can we not sort of like do this normally in terms of like, can we not just beat the teams that everyone else manages to beat? But having said that, look, Villa and us have had some battles over the last few seasons. There's always goals, and it seems to be one team just ends up on top and they absolutely hammer the other team. Fortunately for us, we've been the hammer rather than the hammery on more than occasions than Villa have. So it's nice that we've got those results, but it's always possible that like Villa are a good side. So let's not get too concerned about that. That is why it was important to get those points on the board, get that cushion. So look, we've got Chelsea to play at St James's Park. We've got a home game for the last game of the season against Everton. I so hope it doesn't come down to that, because it'll be nervous, and Everton are always capable of springing something. You know, Pickford will be up for it, and he'll be relishing the chance to spoil the party. But yes, moving to the weekend's game with the game against Brighton is now firmly a must-win, and it's not something that I'm overly confident with.
I hate Brighton. We've played them a lot over the last few years, because we came up at the same time they came up, and we obviously had the battles in the Championship with them as well. We've played them in the FA Cup quite a few times down at their place. We do not win at that stadium, and it's I just hate playing them. They seem to just have a style of play that we struggle against. They have been quite inconsistent this season. They've had a kind of season where they've beaten some of the big teams, but they've really struggled at home against some of the weaker teams. I've got the list here. I just wanted to dig a bit deeper and see what we can actually do, why we shouldn't be so frightened of Brighton. And maybe it's not everyone, and I'm sure that the players aren't frightened about it and they're not thinking about it this way. But Brighton have this season at home, they've beaten Man United, Spurs, Man City, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Fulham, and West Ham. They've lost to Palace, Everton, and Villa, and they've drawn with Ipswich, Forest, Wolves, Southampton, Brentford, Arsenal, and Leicester. So there's a bit of a mixture there. They can get themselves up, and they do well against the big teams at home, it seems. They haven't played Liverpool yet at home, but they haven't beaten any of the promoted teams at home, or Wolves, or Brentford, or Forest, Arsenal. They've had a bit of difficulty, it seems, in breaking down some of these teams that come and defend against them. Our record at Brighton in the Premier League era is played 7, won 0, drawn 4, lost 3. So it's not like we lose every time. How are we going to approach this game? Because we're in this part of the season now where it is 4 cup finals, and maybe we need a specific plan for this game. And I know that they've got a plan for every game, but maybe we need to just try and do something a bit different to what we usually might do against Brighton, because what we usually do doesn't work against them.
No, we don't lose every game, but it never feels that we play well against them. That's the thing. It's even when we do manage to win, it's still, that wasn't comfortable. It makes you kind of look at the results that they've had and the results that they've struggled to get, especially against the relegated sides. It kind of almost makes you feel like, would it be worthwhile us parking the bus and just trying to hit them on the counterattack? But they're clearly a possession-based team. They clearly like having the ball. They like being able to maybe counterattack themselves, but struggle to actually break. Like, they're happy to have the ball, but they're not really good at creating chances from that. So yeah, look, maybe it is. It's that thing of horses for courses, and maybe sitting deep and soaking up some pressure and hitting them on the break. We've got the pace up front. We know that. That might be a better option. I guess it all depends on how we start the game, and if we can get a fast start, I think we'll probably push, and I think that's probably where we're going to be a little bit more susceptible on the break, because they've got some very pacey players and our defenders are not. And I think that's something that we're all very aware of. So yeah, maybe it is one of those, like, let's just park the bus for a bit and see how it goes games. Once we score, they've got to come out, and then maybe we can push on a little bit more from there.
I honestly, I'm that's what I'm kind of getting at. I think that I want to see the most disgusting, horrible, defensive. Remember the game against Arsenal a few years ago where we drew 0-0 at the Emirates, and even the game in the Cup semi-final at Arsenal this season. And I know Brighton are not as good as Arsenal, but I think we should just try and spoil what they do. That usually hurts us so much. And hopefully Joe Linton will be back for this as well, because he's always key in these.
He'd be key for that, yeah.
But our players are quite fatigued anyway, so we're not going to be able to do the high press and to pull that off as well as we have been. So, and I don't actually think a draw is that bad a result in this game. I think City and Villa have both got decent-ish home games that they should win. Forest are away at Palace, and then Chelsea play Liverpool at home the day after we play Brighton. I think it's the day after or later on the same day. So a draw is not the worst result, probably, with Chelsea to come at home as well. So, yeah, what we usually do against Brighton, even in the game that we drew 0-0 there 2 seasons ago, Nick Pope had an absolute blinder in that game. So we could easily have lost that. So, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to a horrible backs to the wall, maybe even 5 at the back. Now Botman's back, like we did against Arsenal, and just see what happens, because I just don't trust us playing against Brighton. There's something about them that we just don't like. It's a style thing, maybe. But we managed to get a team set up specifically for the Liverpool Cup final, and this is not as big a game as that, obviously, but in the context of this season, if we can win this game, we could almost put it to bed, I think, because I think it would be a real blow for other teams if we can win one of our last 2 away games, hard away games. And then hopefully it would mean we don't have to go into that Everton game where we do need to win that game, because the good thing about that is we've got Chelsea playing away at Forest that day. So if we're above them both, we can't go below them both, probably, because of the way that one or both of them are going to drop points. But yeah,
surely we're going to beat Arsenal, though. I mean, we've done it 3 times already this season. Surely 4th's on the cards.
It would be good though, isn't it? You know, we've won games in real style this season, like Palace recently, but to be able to grind it out, I think there'd be even more satisfaction in to be able to do that. If we could do that, and again especially against a team that are a bit of a bogey team for us, and like I referenced before, we did it when we needed to in the Championship because we were both fighting at the top, and then we were behind in that game, and we came back and won. With the moment that Mo Diarmi will forever be remembered for. But records are there to be broken as well, so maybe we can do it. But it is definitely worth thinking about how we're going to approach this. And hopefully we've got Eddie, and it's good that we've got another week from now even to bed down a plan. And Brighton the form's been a little bit inconsistent, and they've got an inexperienced manager, even though they've done some good stuff this season. But let's just not give Minte and Mitoma and Welbeck the space in behind that they like. Let's just put 11 men on the line and see what happens.
Yeah. And of course, let's not all lose our collective shit if Minte scores against us.
Yeah.
It's happened. It's water under the bridge. We had to do it. Let's all move on.
But it's interesting as well. You look back at the last time we played Brighton, and that was a really not a nice experience because we lost that FA Cup game, and it felt like the world was ending because it was 2 games before the cup final, and Gordon got suspended. We've only lost 1 since then, and that was the Villa game. And I think I saw that we've won 20 out of the last 26 games in all competitions. So it was funny, but before I was like saying, we've kind of had a good season. Yes, we've had an absolutely blinding season, but it's just it hasn't felt like that at times because of some of the defeats we've had have been quite damaging, or maybe it's just that everything's amplified.
I think it's just we've lost games that we probably feel we should, as fans, we probably feel we should have won. But we've won games we probably had no right to win as well. It's been a very much of a roller coaster of the season, and it's not been the season that we finished 4th for the Champions League. It felt like everything was just on this massive uphill trajectory, and everything was going our way. We rode that wave, and we played really well. We had a little blip just before the cup final, which I feel kind of did this time as well. But this season's just definitely been more up and down in terms of our form, and we've had to like grind out some results. We've played well and not won. We've played badly and managed to get some points. So yeah, it's been very stop-start, and you've not had that kind of that buzz about the club this season like we may have had in the past couple of seasons.
Yeah. And I think even if we do lose, I'm expecting to lose anyway. So, but at least we know we've got Chelsea coming up to put it right again.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, they've got a hard game against Liverpool, so it won't be terminal probably, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's just the very thought of Brighton. It's maybe I'm just over egging it a little bit. But yeah, it's just something they've had over us. So I think a real specific plan to really try and just do something a bit different in this one would be good. But who knows? I'm not a football manager. Eddie Howe is, and he generally knows what he's doing. So let's leave it to him. All right, we will leave it there. We'll be back maybe before the Brighton game, maybe more likely after it. But we'll speak to you all soon. Cheers.
Awesome. Cheers, mate.